Anoop. Anoop, the uncommon hero. The uncommon hero, Anoop.
Ram sat one day with his laptop perched precariously on his uneven lap. And then he wondered, laptops were never made for laps at all. They get hot, and then what if it falls off? That was how he spoke to himself. He was a man that questioned everything, from the small and unimportant to the large and profound. It did not make him a philosopher. It did not make him anyone who understood the meaning of life. What it did make him, though, was someone who was young and eager to figure out what the hell all of this is all about. But you know what? Life never made any sense to Ram. He had loved only once in his life, but he never had the guts to accept it. Until one day, she moved on and never even thought twice about it. Ram was a man of no special distinction, nothing to set him apart from the world, except for his compulsive need to drink every night and smoke a ton of cigarettes. And as he did that, he would remember her love, her touch, her warmth, but it was no longer there. Ring, 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 ring. The phone rang, and he picked it up. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. I can't talk right now, he said, to the only other person that he would talk till 2 a.m. with. Oh, come on, I just want to talk, she implored. I'm really sorry, but I have a meeting at 2 a.m. and I really can't do this, he answered. She just ignored him and continued. You know what? I just don't know. I think I'm making a mistake. He's such a kid. He picks his nose in public. He laughed. Are you seriously going to judge a person on what he does? Okay, she said. Do you know what? He's not even like you. I just want someone to talk, even if it is 2 a.m. in the morning. He flirted back. You should have chosen me, you know. She playfully whispered to him, God, I wish you weren't so ugly. Ram said, okay. You know what? I have a meeting. I really need to sleep. Hung up on the phone, and Ram went back to the same seat with that laptop, the glass by his side, and a cigarette. A couple of pegs later, he was down asleep. Tomorrow was another day, no different from all the days of his life that he led. But for some reason, he had to live it. There were guns blazing everywhere. People were screaming. Children were shouting in the background. There was wailing everywhere. And then he heard a voice calling out to him, change, come back to me. Be the man that I wanted you to be. But he didn't want that. He wanted to run away. His parents were in a corner, weeping inconsolably. He wanted to go to them, but he was stuck, right amidst that chaos. And then snap, he woke up. There was a cold sweat on his brow, and with his partially opened eyes, he deciphered. The time was 11 a.m. No! I had a meeting at 10:30, he shouted. But no matter what he did, he reached the office only by noon. And no amount of navigating and hiding through those maze of cubicles could hide him from the angry face of his manager. Rajesh came up to him and said, you're a swell guy, but you know what? Even however talented you are, there are a million other things that will get you fired, and this is one of them. But Ram didn't care. He never cared for good intentions. This was a battle, and he had just won. Evening came by, and as every evening were the worst times of day. Immediately after work, he had nothing to do. Soon he was at some random bar, sitting. A couple of pegs later, and he felt as despicable and useless as he ever always felt. No amount of beautiful bodies around him, no amount of girls dancing could take his gaze away from that glass that he held in his hand. As he finished his drink, he swiped his card and then sighed. 15 more days were still to go for his next salary. And then he walked to the bike, and as he walked, he saw that cell phone in his hand. And as he saw the faint flicker, the bar was highlighting her name. And then he thought for a second, and he slowly typed, I can't bear the fact that you're still not in my life. His words were misspelled. He didn't care. He just sent it. He wanted to see that familiar name on that screen again. He wanted to hear her voice so it could calm his soul. But no message came, and no call came. It was time for him to go home. A slow drizzle had just started. It seemed like even the skies were mocking his emotions. As he sat on that bike and drove on a dark street with all the lights were out, in the distance, he saw a man in a trench coat walking with no apparent sense of direction. Ram wasn't the kind who helps people, but he still went up to him. And then he said, do you want to ride? The man didn't was startled by the question and replied, okay, end of the road, and stumbled onto his bike. As they drove with nothing but the patter of rain on their backs, Ram turned back to the man and said, you know what? Today is just a horrible day. It was so hot in the afternoon and now it's raining cats and dogs. I mean, it's literally so hard I can feel it on my face. The man just muttered a casual yeah. He said, you know what? Life has been unfaithful to me. Love is conditional. Be a good son, don't smoke, don't drink, and then I love you. Take me out on Valentine's Day, and then only I love you. Life is unfaithful. It's never been good to me. My job is a joke. I get paid half of what I deserve. The man just muttered a casual yeah. And Ram complained, and he complained. And the man finally said, you know what? Death is the only release. But Ram was startled. He said, death? Death? No, no, no. That's not what I meant. You know what? I just wish I was never born. But I never said I'll die. Because tough luck, I'm already here. And they rode in the rain until the end of the road when Ram stopped. And then he went back. The man dropped off the bike and stood over there. Ram drove back to his home and sat on the same chair with his glass. And as he groped around for the bottle, he brought all the contents splashing down to the ground. And then he looked up at the sky and said, God, I just wish I wasn't ever born. But outside, in that rain, the same man stood in his trench coat. And he looked down. There were tears coming down his eyes. And the rain was washing every tear as it came down. And he looked down into his coat, the bulge in the corner, and he pulled out a gun. He looked at the gun, and he put it to his head, and he wanted to shoot himself. And it came flashing back to him, the beautiful image of his child, his beautiful child. She was so spirited, she was so full of promise, but she had to die. He couldn't live this life anymore without his child. He wanted to kill himself. And then he took that gun and he dropped it down. And he knelt down and he looked up at the sky with his eyes still closed. And he said, I want to die, but tough luck, I'm already here. Thank you.